turn off your cell phones, and I'll do that mine as well, just in case. Beepers, pagers, or whatever in case they exist. We don't disturb. We have signs on the outside saying, please don't come in, so hopefully people will respect that. So let's introduce Ish, our speaker today. Ish is from the IFC Toastmasters Club, even though he works at the bank. So Ish, thank you for coming. And Ish will talk, the title of his speech is Fear and Future. Failure, sorry. Fear and Failure, Ish. Thank you.
Dear contest master, judges, the contestants, and guests, today I want to take you on a journey into an area that's usually unexplored, the fears and the fears of failure that run our lives. I'll begin by looking at the sources as to where the fear comes from, and then propose some tools that we can use to deal with these fears or the fears that are based on past failures. And before I go there, I must say that fear, it's not a bad thing. Right? The human civilization, it has survived for so many centuries. The millennia, it's because we have rational fears. So to begin with, there are two sources of fear. It can be neurological or it can be psychological. By neurological, I mean there's a part of our brain and it's called amygdala. And the only job or the primary function of this part of our brain is to respond to threats or fear, whether they are real or they are imagined. Say for example, you're walking on the street, somebody comes up and points a gun to your head. Right? So you don't even have to think about it. Your brain will automatically respond. Either you'll freeze, or if you know how to deal with a gun, you might fight, or you might run. Right? And all of them are valid reactions. Same thing if you see a lion, right? And you know that it might eat you, then you better run. And you don't even have to think about it. So that's one source. And then the second source can be psychological. Right? This is typically based on any failures you have had in your life. Let me give you two examples. And to get you present, how many of you have a fear of losing your job? Fear of getting old? Or fear of not having enough money? Right? So many of these fears are based on past experiences. To give one example, say you have lost your job once and you are in your current job, some part of your brain is still scared as to what if I lose this job again. Right? And another example is that say you are in your 6th grade, you have a crush on this really cute looking girl, and you go up to her, she's standing next to her fence, you go up to her and you say, hey Lucy, I really like you, will you come out on a play date with me? And she goes like, no, I don't like you, right? And that particular incident, it's a failure in some shape or form. It will leave a deep impression. Whether you realize it or not, it might still play a role in your dating or on your relationships. So these are the two sources, the neurological and psychological. And then there are three ways that I propose that you can deal with these fears. The first step is you have to identify, right, and acknowledge that you have fears. And then once you have identified and acknowledged, then you can actually judge whether the fear is real or it's imaginary. Right? And if it's imaginary, you can determine whether you'll allow it to have an impact on your life or not. And then for the fears that are based on psychological factors, as to you failed in some previous part of your life, then you have to make a distinction between I failed versus a failure in performance. So for example, this example of losing your job. You lost your job, it could be because your performance was poor, right? Or the company just wasn't doing well. Versus saying that, oh, I failed, there's something wrong with me. Right? So if in your current job you are experiencing any fear, then you think about it. Whether it's because I'm not putting enough effort into it, whether I don't enjoy it, do I need to look for another job, or whether it's simply a reaction that you're having to something that happened in the past. Then the third thing that you could do is doing a scenario analysis. Assume what's the worst case scenario. For example, losing your job, what's the worst case scenario? Do you have enough savings? Could you find another job? Right? Assume the worst case, and then you will have some freedom around dealing with the fear. One man that we can really learn from when it comes to failure would be Abraham Lincoln. To give you a brief summary, at the age of 9, he lost his mother. At the age of 22, he failed in business. At the age of 23, he ran for his first election for state legislator. He lost, and he didn't get into law school. Age 24, he declared bankruptcy, and spent the next 17 years to pay off the debts he owed to his friends. At the age of 26, his sweetheart died, and he had a nervous breakdown for 6 months. And then up to the age of 45, he lost multiple elections. Elections for Congress, for Senate, or for the state legislature. At the age of 47, he ran for the vice presidency, and he lost, and he got less than 100 votes. At the age of 49, he again lost for the role of a senator. And at age 51, he was elected the President of the United States. And this is what he had to say about failure. My great concern is not that you have failed, but whether you are content with your failure. So we should take a look at our lives and see where fears are running our lives. Really judge whether they are real or they are imagined. And if you are letting the fears run your lives, are you okay 10 years from now, be okay that, oh, I lived my life out of fears? Facing your fears will give you the freedom you seek, or we seek. Thank you.
Now, I would ask our timers